Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dropping Down from the Rafters podcast here on Toned In Entertainment. Now, as always, of course, we have nothing but good shows. But today I'm feeling a little heated up. I'm feeling a little bouncy. I'm feeling a little excited. We got a very special guest here on the show. But first, I do have to introduce my co-host for this evening. Julie Cutler is back here on the Dropping Down from the Rafters podcast. Julie, how you doing?
I'm back. Tony, thank you so much, as always, for having me. I am very excited for today's guest because this is somebody who, when I started working with him, he and his mascot, is that what I would say? Mascot? He and his mascot captured my heart right away. And I feel like they captured the heart of all of their audiences right away. So without further ado, being accompanied in spirit by Benny the Basketball from Rucker Park, weighing in at 203 pounds at guard number 3, Jermaine Marbury.
I love it. Tony, Julie, what's up, guys? How you guys doing?
We are doing so great now that you are here. Thank you so much, Jermaine, for taking the time to join us this evening. I have very much been looking forward to having you on the show because, like I said, I think the first show we ever did together, as soon as I saw your whole shtick, as soon as I saw your in-ring performance, I was like a Jermaine girl right away. So really excited to dive in and kind of ask you about, your start in the wrestling business. Obviously, I think most of us kind of started out as fans from a young age. Everyone kind of has a different story here and there, but did you grow up as a wrestling fan? And if so, how did that sort of inspire your wrestling journey? Like, at what point did you stop and seriously look at yourself and say, like, this is what I am going to do for a living. I am going to make this happen?
Yeah, people always tell me like my story is kind of unique, but like I don't really think so. So like everyone else, when I was 6 years old, I was flipping through the channels late at night. I saw Monday Night Raw. I saw Rey Mysterio, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever because he was like the short little man, like messing up all these dudes, and me being 6 years old, probably like 3'11" or whatever. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And so then I was a big fan like throughout like elementary school and middle school. And then in high school, I remember it was my sophomore year. I had to do a class project. I was going to present to the entire grade about what I was going to do after high school and how I was going to get there, like for like career choice and whatnot. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something cool. So I was like, oh, I guess I'll be a wrestler. So I made like this big like presentation about it. And I researched like how to become a professional wrestler and how to come up through the independence at the time. This is like 2017, 2018. And now here I am.
Okay, so, wait, so when you made that presentation, I can just imagine. I'm a few years older than you, Jermaine. So like, I kind of grew up when it wasn't like kind of cool to be a wrestling fan. Like we were like the outcast. So if I would have made a presentation, I think I would have got beat up at the time. But how did that all go down? Like, what were the classmates' reactions to that?
I don't know. I don't think anyone really cared. Like everyone was trying to trying to get through like the presentation, but like the research was fun because like I was looking up all these schools and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna move to Maryland. I'm gonna train at MCW, Leo Rush and Mickey James, And then I was like, then I'm gonna get signed after being on the Indies for 6 years, and then I'm gonna win the Rumble, and that's gonna be it. Like I'm gonna be champion and be set for life.
So you had it all mapped out pretty well.
Yeah.
And that, all things considered, you're still pretty young right now. So you're only 22, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
And so how long have you been on the independents for? Like where did you start training, and then when did you debut? Because if you're relatively young, you're probably not even 6 years in yet.
No. Well, I started training in December of 2020 at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling with Paul Roma and Mario Mancini down in East Haven, Connecticut. And then after training for like almost 2 years, I made my debut in the summer of 2022 at some like random taco festival.
So you've only really been on the independents. I saw that you had posted not too long ago that you had hit 100 matches, which is a lot for a young person, but you've only really been doing this for like a couple of years, and yet you've been everywhere. You've been seen a lot of really prominent places. We've seen you at Beyond Wrestling. We've seen you as a regular at Beyond Wrestling. I know that we both just went out to Ohio last month for Exodus Pro Wrestling, one of the NWA territories. So you're starting to like put your name out there. You're starting to get around. What are some of your sort of imminent goals? That being said, if you have this timeline that you set up as a sophomore, your 6-year plan, how do you feel? Are you still committed to that 6-year plan, or have your goals sort of changed since then?
I think it's changed a little bit because if you look at like what's going on like TV and whatnot, like there's guys getting signed like in like their late 30s and 40s. You know what I mean? So I don't think like 6 years. I mean, it's definitely realistic for sure, but like not to say I'd give up after that time frame. I think now like with everything going on, like there's so many different places to work. I think that like now I kind of like take my time and really like review my options before anything else.
I want to talk about the business plan, like going into that as a kid, because I'm really fascinated by that because, you know, it's difficult, I think, for any of us to come up with a business plan, but yours actually kind of sounded like it was on the, I guess, the right track, and that you really did like your research, 6 years and, you know, winning the Rumble and, you know, going on to do there. So like what information did you gather? Like, how did you research this business plan of yours?
Well, I was looking at other wrestlers that like how they came about, and like at the time, like a lot of wrestlers like in 2017, 2018 came into like the independents, guys like Kevin Owens, Leo Rush, who was around, you know. So I was kind of looking into them, how they got their start and how they got noticed. So that's kind of like where I based like my information off for my presentation.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
And then that being said, so something that really drew me to you right away was obviously the basketball gimmick. And for anybody has seen your work, your gimmick is very well thought out. Like anybody that knows basketball well, your gimmick has so many different little nuances that if someone comes to a wrestling show and they're also a hardcore basketball fan, there's a lot of like little Easter eggs in what you do for people to pick up on. Like one of my brothers, for example, has been to a couple of shows that you've been on. He's a big basketball guy. So he noticed right away some of the little things that you did, like the shoes that you were wearing and how you come out to the ring and you have the chalk and different aspects of your moveset. And so when you were training, how did you get the idea that you wanted to be a basketball playing wrestler? And how did all of these little nuances about?
Yeah, it's crazy because like that wasn't the plan at all. I thought like at first it was kind of like corny, you know what I mean? Because like obviously like, I love basketball, I played growing up and whatnot, but I felt like kind of like tying it in where pro wrestling was kind of like I don't want to say played out, but like it's been seen before. Like I've seen so many guys on the independents with like jerseys on, or guys coming out with like the basketball shorts. So like I wanted to be original, but when I first made my debut, like I didn't really know what direction I was going in. So I was trying different things out. I had like throwback jerseys I would wear, you know, and then eventually I was like, okay, I need like some sort of gear with my name on it. So I was like, all right, like these shorts are like $100. I get my name on it. Let's just try it out. And then I found my theme song. And then the fans, like, that's when it really clicked with me that like I had something here. Because basketball by Little Bow Wow, the fans would clap like before I would come out. And I'm like, all right, well, I can't just like not go with this anymore. So it's like one idea after another started like building on upon that. And it kind of just worked out.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was watching a bunch of the clips, and man, I was having so much fun just watching them. You know, whether you're slam dunking somebody or I think one of my favorites was you had lost a match and you had called for an instant replay or you know, for them to check and the referee goes over, he's watching on the computer, and then he comes out and he's like, overturn, and you're not. It doesn't cost you a challenge, you know, because you won the challenge, and then you restart the match. And I'm like, it's so clever. And, you know, you said like the basketball stuff has been done before, but the way you are presenting it is so fresh and so new and just full of energy. And like, I was just digging it. I like really just wanted to keep like, fall down the rabbit hole and keep like seeing what was going to come next with basketball in a wrestling ring, how you're doing it, Jermaine.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, that was the first ever timeout match I had at Wrestling Open back in March against Danny Miles. And I came about because we had 2 singles matches prior, and both times he had done something to cheat, ref didn't see it, right? So it's like, how do you counteract that? Well, instant replays, right? And then you have challenges, you know what I mean? Things like that. So it's like one time really worked in my favor to be a basketball player in a wrestling ring.
Yeah, and I was going to say to Tony's point as well, when you were saying that, everyone wants to do something that's original. And you were saying that there were other people that had, come out to the ring in jerseys and things like that. To Tony's point, I don't think anybody has done it quite like you have. And to your point as well, when you mentioned the theme song and how everybody gets into the theme song right away. First of all, as soon as I heard your theme song, I downloaded it on my phone and I listen to it in the car now for fun. Sometimes if I practice my ring announcements on the way to shows, I'll like practice to your song. And I remember at one point you had shared something on social media and you were like, what do you guys think about me switching up my theme song? And I feel like all the comments, everybody was like, no, don't do it. Which I thought was so funny, but it is so catchy and how do you feel like the basketball gimmick has sort of like worked to your advantage? Like, because it's easy for you because a lot of people think it's fun and they connect with it in some way. It seems like it's easy for you to get over a lot of different places. Like, have you found that gimmick has like really helped you connect with different audiences?
Yeah, I think so. It's been very helpful, especially having like a mascot ringside. Because like at first, like when I first came out the curtains, always a good reaction. Because like not often is there a mascot accompanying someone to like the ring. But then like once people start to get like to know me, once they start to get to like see me wrestle and they see all the things I do and all the little like Easter eggs, like you say, that I do like during my entrance, my matches, then like that's when all the love kind of transfers from Benny now to me. People are like, okay, no, this guy's cool too. So I think like it's been very helpful. With everything, and plus like so easy to lean into as well. Like whether it's putting matches together or it's different like references and stuff I could do like for like my social media posts, like it writes itself, honestly.
I was going to say, speaking of your social media poster, mate, I could literally just scroll down your profile, I think, all day. And we were talking about your entrance music, but just your music choices, I think, in general, are just straight up fire. Like, even on your regular post, I'm just sitting there 1 minute. Okay. And I'm just like listening to the different songs. So you have a great taste in music altogether. Cause I was just deep diving again just into the music that you put with your post as well.
Yeah, I listen to a little bit of everything. I love like old 2000s music, especially like rap and R&B, especially. But I listen to like country music too. I listen to like rock. Listen to jazz every now and then, or like old like blues. Like I listen to like all different like genres of music. So music is like a passion of mine for sure.
Something else that I wanted to ask, because someone was actually asking me this when we were working together, and I didn't know the answer fully, but I would love for you to give us some background, because obviously you love basketball and you know a lot about basketball in order to incorporate all of these different Easter eggs. How you've been playing basketball? Like, what does your basketball background look like? Like, did you play in school? Like, do you ball in your free time? Like, how deep does that go beyond Jermaine Marbury, the character, into Joey, the person?
It goes pretty deep. So I played growing up. I played in middle school, and then I did start playing my freshman year of high school. But I was what people call a troubled youth. I ended up getting like a lot of trouble. I would get in, like a lot of mischief. So like I ended up getting expelled my freshman year of high school, and that carried over to like my sophomore year. And by the time I was a sophomore, and I was eligible to play, like the season was over. And then after that, I was like, well, I'm gonna be a pro wrestler anyway, so like let me just focus on that. So that's kind of my backstory there.
I'm surprised to hear that because you just seem like this. Anytime I like introduce, I say, hey, like there's this guy, Jermaine Marbury. I'm like, he's the sweetest kid. He's so polite. He's so respectful. I'm very surprised to hear that that was the
Yeah.
path that you.
Yeah, no, I'm sure I gave my mom a handful growing
And
up,
it kind
but
of works out as they get
yeah.
Was that like a wake up call for you, Jermaine? Though maybe that was that your turning point in maybe your
Oh, for
life then.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like the worst thing you do is like disappoint people that you love. You know what I mean? And like I don't want to do that. And like I kind of saw where it was going, so I was like, all right, let me get myself together real quick. And after that, I enjoyed school. You know what I mean? Like I did a lot of community service, like just for like the heck of it. You know, like I volunteered at like summer camps and nursing homes. Like that to me was like more fun than whatever I was doing before. So
And it definitely has worked out for you then.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess all that being like having sort of gone through that transformation at a young age and now being in wrestling, like you see all the young kids that come to shows. And I think, especially with your gimmick, you get over with kids really quickly because they love the basketball. They
Big
love
kids
bang
too. Big kids too, Julie.
big kids too. But do you find that you've had any special experiences like talking or connecting with fans, kind of, knowing where you came from and where you are now? How has that sort of helped you as an influence on young people?
um, that's a good question. Wow. Sometimes like I don't really like realize the influence I have on people until like I meet them like months or even like a year or two later, and like they're coming up with me with like bracelets and like pictures they made of me and stuff like that. You know, and I get like a lot of love online too. So like it's tough to say the influence I have on people because I'm not really too sure. But like I know like there's like some sort of effect on there. So like I know like it's important like for me to like be a good example because I know like a lot of kids do look up to me when they see me. So
I know when we were at Exodus, so you faced, I'm trying to remember, was it Gunnar Kane?
yeah,
And you
yeah.
guys were the opening match on the show. This was at NWA Exodus in Cleveland back in May. And during the intermission, I was heading backstage, and there was a group of small kids kind of standing near where I was walking, and they started talking to me. So I stopped, and I was kind of, chit chatting with them. And I was like, "Oh, how do you guys like the show so far? Who's your favorite?" And they're all like, "The basketball guy." So I mean, that was your first time performing there, and that was the influence that you had on those kids, was immediate favorite.
Yeah, and there's like no feeling like that. You know what I mean? Like you're after your match, you're standing at like the merch table, and there's all these kids like screaming at you, asking you to sign like sticky notes and like their shoes and like their hats. Is like guys, like come on now.
Aw.
I was gonna say, Jermaine, when it comes to basketball, like I'm kind of like a more of an old school type of guy. Like when it comes
Okay.
to like watching basketball, who are some of like maybe your favorite players or influences in the NBA world?
Derrick Rose for sure. Love Jalen Brunson. I love Celtics Isaiah Thomas back in like 2016, 2017. He has a cool story. I like LeBron, Jordan's cool, Dennis Rodman's cool. Um, I like Josh Hart. I'm a big Knicks fan, so I'm kind of biased here. Kevin
Okay,
Durant was cool. Kevin Durant was my guy for a little bit, and then after he left Brooklyn, I was like, oh, I don't know. But
Julie, do you have any favorite basketball players?
I was actually,
Oh,
when we couldn't leave the house and there wasn't a lot to do, um, I feel like I was spending a lot of time with my family, and one of the things that we did was we watched the Last Dance documentary about the
yeah,
Chicago Bulls, like the
yeah.
90s Chicago Bulls, over and over and over again. So I feel like I learned a lot about like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. So I a little bit biased towards the Bulls. I feel like we grew up in like a Celtics Bulls household. Also Larry Bird. I remember one of my brothers had a Larry Bird bobblehead doll growing up. And so he was always our guy as well.
yeah, from the Massachusetts area, you got to be
Yeah.
a Larry Bird guy, right?
Exactly.
although,
Exactly.
although I'm from Miami, so I do remember the Heat beating the Celtics. With the big three were down
I
there,
don't
so
Yeah.
we don't We don't recognize that one.
Yes, we do. We do. Yeah, for me, I would go with like D Wade is definitely my favorite of all time. But like I'm a huge like Sean Kemp fan, and I love the
Okay.
like the guys from like the '90s and stuff. Isaiah Thomas and Clyde Drexler and Patrick Ewing. Like that's kind of like the era that I grew up. I think we're kind of influenced by like the time period we kind of grew up, and of course, being a Miami guy, at least born and raised there is definitely D Wade is numero uno on my list for sure.
That's valid. That's valid.
And speaking of inspiration, something else that I wanted to ask, obviously you mentioned Rey Mysterio kind of catching your attention when you first got into the wrestling fandom at a young age. Who do you feel, as you've gotten older and you've gotten to kind of meet people, go to seminars, watch more tape, things like that, who do you draw a lot of inspiration from on a professional level now?
The first name that comes to mind is Ricky Steamboat. Ricky Steamboat is definitely someone I could do like a lot of like tape study on. I love me Ricky. Also like a lot of like older wrestling, so like him, Flair, a lot of like the old like WCW, like NWA days. So like anything old. Like I feel like old is always new, right? Always draw from the past, bring something fresh to the table. So
Oh, that's pretty awesome that you said Ricky Steamboat. Like that's you don't hear that name very often when people mention influences, but I think if there's a guy to case study, and you're talking about those NWA matches with him and Flair back in
yeah.
the days. I mean, they're hour-long matches that are just. I mean, do you think wrestling could go back to that type of stuff? Because we kind of live in a 10-minute world now, right? Like anything over 10 minutes is too long. And we used to get those like Iron Man matches and hour-long matches. Do you think like pro wrestling, is there room for stuff like that here in 2025 and moving forward?
I'm sure there's exceptions too, but I think like now with like where we are like as a society with like the technology we have, like it's so easy for us to like lose interest because we have our phones, right? You know what I mean? So it's so easy to pull out your phone for 1 second, like to check a text, but then you like just going through like Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. So I think it's easy for people to lose like interest in like whatever they're watching, not just wrestling, but like anything in general. It's hard for people just to sit there and like enjoy what's going on, rather than like the 80s and 90s, early 2000s is like you just have what's in front of you. So I'm sure there's definitely exceptions for like those long matches, and there have been a lot of great long matches like recently too, but I think.
Something.
Mhm.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I just think people need to like recognize that like a lot of people have like short attention spans. Is where I was getting at with that.
Yeah, no, it is tricky with like short form content kind of ruling the world these days. And
Mm.
also, I think just with everything, like the production level of everything now, like it's so good, but there's also so much going on with like LED ring aprons and 3D graphics, and like it's hard to know like where to focus your attention because there's just so many different things going on all at the same time. That being said, while we were kind of on the topic of like people that inspire you, so if we're talking like dream matches, is there anyone in particular, like anybody from any company or even anybody on the indies that like maybe you haven't gotten to step toe to toe with yet that you have your eyes on that you'd like to use this opportunity to call out?
So if we're going all time, it'd be the guys I grew up watching. So like Rey Mysterio would be cool. CM Punk, Jeff Hardy, right? Uh, Jericho at one point was my guy.
He
Not
is
so
my
much
guy
anymore. Yeah.
too.
And on an independent standpoint, Cheeseburger for Ring of Honor, if you're familiar.
Mm,
He's actually the like
yes.
person that got me into independent wrestling. I didn't know about independent wrestling until someone told me about him, and I thought he was the coolest thing ever. So Cheeseburger, and then there's this guy in my area named Chris Battle who helped train me as well. So I've been doing this for like I've been training for almost like what 5 years. I've never wrestled him, so that'd be cool.
Do any of your
Okay.
old I was gonna say, do any of your old classmates, the ones that you did the presentation for, do they know what you do now? And if they do, what do they think about it?
Uh, yeah, everyone know. Not I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of people know what I do. People like hit me up at, like every now and then, ask me like, oh, like when you wrestling in our area, and like I had someone reach out to me maybe 2 days ago to ask me like how like my recovery was going and stuff. So like it's cool and it gives like them like opportunity to kind of like keep up with me. You know what I mean?
speaking of which, I know that you mentioned you're recovering right now. You had an injury a couple weeks ago and still kind of waiting to hear more about that. So in the meantime, while you're recovering, obviously nobody who's wrestling ever wants to be on the shelf, especially not for any, lengthy period of time. But that being said, kind of being in the position that you're in right now and taking a little break to recover, are there any sort of lessons that you feel like maybe you've taken away from this little bit of time that you've had?
Definitely not to take anything for granted. You know what I mean? It's like it's so weird because I went from like wrestling, like Thursday through Monday, training Tuesday and Wednesday, always being on the road, never being home. So now like I'm just home. So like it's as much as like I appreciate like being around like my cat, I have dogs now too. Like spending time with my family, my friends. It's like weird. But it's also giving me like opportunity to kind of like think about like what I should do when I come back. So I definitely keep it busy as well. Maybe I got some new gear coming out, some new merch. I don't know. We'll have to see. But
Ooh.
keeping myself busy and productive is what's been like important to me right now.
Let's talk about that merch because I know you're very proud of what you got going on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Oh yeah. So like another like one of my passions is like fashion. Like especially like growing up too. Like I love fashion. I love going out and like either buying clothes or like wearing things that I think like match. Like I was always like very big into that. So like I think it was important to me, especially like when I was first coming out with merch, to have something like unique. I feel like there's so many like shirts you look at, you're like, oh, that's just like a wrestling T-shirt. But like I don't want that, you know what I mean? Because I'm not just like a wrestler. Like so, I'm very like hands-on with everything. I design a handful of my shirts. And the things I can't design, I'll reach out to people, be like, yo, this is what I want. These are the colors. This is the format. Like, can you do this for me? So I'm very hands-on with like everything that I put out.
And I think that's super important too. And we've talked about that on the podcast before with some other people where like they go into wrestling and they say, like, this is my life plan. I do not have a backup plan of any sort. And something that we've talked about a little bit is just like how it's really beneficial for a lot of people to have like other things going on. Like I had seen not only have you design merch for yourself, but I saw that you were working on designs for other people that maybe need a graphic designer as well. And obviously you have a thick interest in basketball. You're taking some of this time to do podcasts and interviews and things like that. Do you feel like it's been beneficial to sort of like have this time just to explore sort of like other creative things, maybe related to wrestling, but outside of wrestling a little bit, just being able to, do interviews and focus on creating, designs and to be able to, while wrestling is on the back burner right now, sort of like keep the wheels turning in other ways?
Yeah. I think my mind like always kind of revolves about wrestling to a certain extent, So I'm always thinking about like what I could do to like change my image, what I could do to like be fresh. I feel like you look at like wrestlers who've been around a long time, like their image like always changes. You know what I mean? You can go like year by year to see like what's different about them. So I think that's very important. So like, that's kind of like what I'm working on is like how am I gonna look different? You know what I mean? Like obviously like I'm the basketball guy. I wear a jersey and I wear shorts and sneakers. But, like what can I do that's different? You know what I mean? That still kind of like relates. So you know.
Well, speaking of doing different things, one of the matches I saw, you got into like a 3-way chicken fight in a match. I know the Notorious Mimi was in the match, and then
I did see that.
yeah, you grabbed Benny the basketball and kind of bowled them all over, and it's just cool stuff like that. And then people chant like basketball, 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 like during your match. I mean,
Yeah.
those things got to put like a big smile on your face that you see this like vision that you had. And I know it's got to be tough because it's like you're bringing your vision into a match with people and it's kind of being wrapped around your theme, right? Like basketball, like so you're doing the fake outs and you're doing the basketball stuff. So I feel like you get a lot of attention in these matches. So is it ever hard to like kind of like produce some of the matches because of maybe all the basketball stuff that you want to do?
Well, like I don't do it all in one match. So like I think when it comes
Right.
to like producing matches, it's not too hard because I kind of know like what I bring to the table. I know like what I'm good at. You know what I mean? So I don't have to think too much. You know what I mean? And then obviously like in multi-man matches too, like usually there's only like one or two of those matches on a card. So like those are the matches that like need to like have something different. So that's when you have like a chicken fight, for example. You know, I always trying to think outside the box too. Especially with like social media, you got to think about like what's gonna get like views nowadays too.
I like
Speaking
that. Yes. Thank you
speaking
for
of
thinking about that.
which, there was one clip, I believe it was from Wrestling Open, if I remember correctly. It was when it was at the White Eagle in Worcester,
Yep.
Massachusetts.
Yep.
And you were having a match. I believe it was with Channing Thomas, and I think
Yep.
Sydney Bacabella was a part of it as well. And all of a sudden, middle of the match, your music hits and Benny the basketball comes out. He's back. So what was and that went viral. I don't remember what account it was, but there was some account that posts like real meme content, things of that
Yeah.
nature. And I don't know how it got like maybe hundreds of thousands of views. I mean, it was up there. So what was your initial reaction to seeing that? And what was kind of like the backstory behind what actually happened in the clip?
So in April of 2024, I got into a little scuffle with Channing Thomas where it got to a point where he was upset, him and Bacabella. So they had tied me up to the ropes and they had pile driven Benny and like ripped his costume up. So then I didn't have him around for like maybe like 6, 7 weeks. It was like a decent amount of time. Like there was no Benny around. Um, Yeah, and so then we had like this big blow off match, me versus Channing. Bach was supposed to be banned from ringside, but you know, some way, somehow he got involved. And so the clip you saw was after the match. They were getting ready to pile drive me, and Benny had came back, you know, inflated as ever, to make the save. And so I had clipped it because it was Paul Crockett on commentary, who was like, "Oh my God, he's alive!" And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. So I took like a 1 to 2 minute clip of that and just posted it on my TikTok. And so like that, like by itself, maybe got like 600,000 views. But then someone cut it like just like that 5 second part, and like they posted it. It got a million views on their TikTok. Then it got posted on like all these Instagram accounts. It got posted on Reddit. Like it was posted everywhere. There's some places where it has over like a million views. So like, and I guess send it like, even to this day, it's been over a year. To this day, people still send it to me. They're like, "Yo, look what this account you posted," and I'm like, "Yeah." So that's kind of how that came about.
And that's amazing too, because so I don't have a TikTok. I'm like a real old person where I
Yeah.
wait for reels to come out on Instagram 2 weeks after the fact, and then I'm catching up. So
Yeah.
I probably saw it on one of those accounts that reposted it.
Yeah.
But like, at what point like did you see that it had all of these views? Like, what was your initial reaction? Just being like, oh my God, like were
Uh,
you like mind blown seeing that kind of reaction and that kind of like getting that kind of traction on social media?
it was like bittersweet because like at first it's like you see everyone else like reposting it and like not like tagging you, so it's like, oh man, like people are gonna watch this and like they're gonna have questions but they're not gonna know like where to find the answers. So like it was like almost irritating at first, but then I'm like, wait, no, like this could be good for me, you know what I mean? Like this is getting like eyes on me, and like people like even like now like I'll go up to like a show like in a state I never wrestled and they'll be like, yo, like I see you like online, like you're the basketball guy. Like, so like it's cool. And like I've had other videos too do like a decent amount of numbers on Instagram and TikTok. So social media's been like very helpful with like getting me booked other places and like with fan recognition too.
That's interesting. I know we talked about like the positives about like, being booked through the videos and the basketball. Have there
Yeah.
ever been any challenges because somebody's like, oh, there's this basketball wrestler, and they're like, well, I don't know, like until they see maybe what you can do in the ring.
To a certain extent, I know like last year in 2024, I had like 116 matches. I was getting booked like every weekend, constantly having like 3 to 4 shows a week. So like getting booked wasn't the hard part, but sometimes like promoters look at me differently. Like there's some guys who will put me in the main event, which is cool. You know what I mean? There's other guys who only see me as like the opening match guy, like 5 to 6 minutes. So I go out there and just have fun, which is cool too. I don't mind that. It's an easy night at the office. But some promoters take me more seriously than others. So it can be tough depending on like the promotion, like what my goals are there. But what can you do?
Well, to put you over really quickly, so I mentioned that you were in the opening match at Exo Pro the other month, and I can't remember how long it was. It was probably like 6 to 8 minutes, I would say.
Yeah.
It was a decent amount of time, but I mean, it was just like chef's kiss. It was a perfect opening match, and not only that, but you were brand new to this promotion, and like I said, by intermission you were favorite. So to any promoters who are watching this guy right here knows how to do his job very well. That
Yeah.
being said, you've had, like we said, you worked a lot of really impressive places thus far. Are there any particular promotions that you have your eyes on, or maybe like any areas that you haven't traveled to yet that you want to make it out to this year or in the future?
Yeah, I definitely want to fly out more. I wrestled just about in every state in New England, with the exception of Vermont. Vermont's the only place I haven't wrestled in. Uh, and Jersey too. I only wrestled in Jersey like once, so I'll have to get back to New Jersey. I know there's a lot of wrestling out there, but like I want to get out to like Texas. I want to get out to California. They have good wrestling out there. I know there's Defy Wrestling out in Seattle. I used to watch that all the time in high school, so I'll have to go out to Seattle, Washington. Uh, I'll have to go back down south or to Florida. So I just want to get out the house and travel as much as possible.
I was gonna say there's a lot of stuff going really good here in Atlanta, Georgia as well too. So
Yeah.
I think we could definitely use somebody of your talents come through here. And I was out in LA about a month ago for a work job, and I went to one show while I was out there. It's called like Lucha Extreme, and man, that thing was wild out there. That one was a lot of fun out in Los Angeles. I think they run like once a month or so, but that one was fun. And then there's of course a ton, from Florida, from where I'm from,
Yeah.
down in Orlando and Miami as well too. So there's a lot of possibilities for a man of your talents to travel the world, so to say.
You
I
want to
appreciate that.
know? You want to know where I think Jermaine Marbury, and this is me again putting you over. I think Jermaine Marbury would be such a cool addition. There's a wrestling promotion down in Florida. It's called Pro Wrestling Action.
Oh yes.
I
Oh, he
feel
would
like
thrive there.
I feel like they do a lot of like character based stuff. They like people that have really strong characters because it's a wrestling promotion that's kind of inspired by like the comic book world a little bit.
Okay,
So
cool.
they like to have people like, I'm trying to think of some examples of other people that they've had in the past,
Like Cam Stewart and Dante Casanova has gone there. It's just
yeah,
they're larger than life
Academia.
care. Yeah, Eric Academia's down there, and Marina Tucker and Blake Banks. So it's Izzy, the lifeguard, Izzy Vaden. So Joey Mayberry. Like I know, like so many out there, but it's not comic book wrestling. It's has inspirations from like it, but like the wrestling is very like in your face,
Right.
and so it's like a great mix of entertainment and like really great pro wrestling matches as well.
Yeah, no, I love to go down there.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Florida needs some more Jermaine Marbury. All of that being said, like I know we've talked about your 6-year plan and how there's been some tweets. Any other? I know sometimes people don't like to share too many of their goals because it's like people like to kind of keep certain manifestations to themselves, but are there any maybe like shorter term goals, anything that you want to accomplish like maybe by the end of this year or next year that's on your radar that you do feel comfortable sharing with us at this time?
I do want to get on GCW. GCW is like one of like the main like promotions I've been trying to get onto for a while. Like I show up there like when they're in town to do ring crew and whatnot. So like I am trying real hard to get over there. Yeah, I think it's definitely important also to like set like minor goals. Like obviously everyone has like a big like end goal too, but you need like steps on how to get there too. So I don't mind sharing that with you.
Jermaine, being a basketball guy, being a wrestling guy, were you like, I mean, for me, there was a lot of great video games from both of those genres. Were you a gamer by any chance? And did you have any of those favorite games in those genres?
Yeah, so with wrestling, I grew up on SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 and 2011. Those are like my two favorites. Obviously, WWE 2K14 as well. 2K, people hate on 2K15, but I had a lot of fun with that one. I haven't played too much of 25 though. And then with NBA, I didn't start playing NBA games until like 2K21. So, yeah.
Okay, because I feel like a lot of your persona fits into like the old NBA Jam style of like back
Yeah.
in the day, like just fun, crashing down, breaking backboards, like I could see you as a bonus character in like one of those games.
I appreciate that.
Now, Jermaine, I feel like I might be dating myself a little bit here because I know that you're relatively young, but were you ever an N64 guy? Did you ever
N6,
video
N,
games?
N64, no. I came up on like the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, I had a Wii, I have a PSP even to this day. That's kind of like where I came up on. Now I have an Xbox Series X, so.
Yeah, he's like, "What's a cartridge, Julie? Come on."
So back in the day, like no N64. If you ever have the opportunity to buy like a second-hand N64, WWF No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000 were my jam. I feel like it might be hard now because like the graphics on these games have gotten so good that going back, like if you haven't played them before, you might just be like, what is this? But if you have the
Oh, she's frozen. You were frozen there for a second, but I think if you said you have like the nostalgia fix,
Oh,
but I
no.
think
Yeah.
I think
you
I think
could.
we're back.
Yeah, you can emulate those games for free though. Like, there's no need to spend thousands of dollars. I'm sure to
True. Yeah,
yeah.
don't spend thousands of dollars on that.
Well, like these new games don't have like the same like arcade feel as it did like back in the day. I feel like I'm sure like back in the N64 it's so easy to pick up the controller and just like play a game. But like now like the simulation style they have is probably a little harder for like people who aren't like too familiar with what they're doing.
That's true. It's like
I
a
feel like
2-hour tutorial in order to play. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no.
No, I understand.
Changed a lot of the controls from what
Yeah.
I understand. I played a lot of the newer games, but like a lot of the old games, I feel like it was always the same basic controls to do certain things, and I feel like they're all different now.
There's only like what 2 buttons on there. I don't know.
Oh man, I'm not that old, Jermaine.
Nintendo 64 had like, I think it had 6, if I'm not mistaken. It had like the 4 and then 2, so it didn't have
Yeah.
8. But that was Nintendo. Super Nintendo had 6, so yeah, I had to have at least six buttons then. And now I'm
Okay.
dating myself. I don't appreciate it, Julie.
Now I have to look up. I'm gonna have to pull up a picture and
Is the
remember
N64
myself.
is the N64 the one that had like the 3 handles, or am I tripping?
Yeah, it had
I
like
think it did, yeah.
the
Okay.
middle, and it had like the first, I think, thumbstick that
Well-
was on console.
What was the middle for?
God, I don't know.
Okay.
But it was shaped like the Ultimate Warrior, I think it was. Like
Oh yeah, so it had the toggle. I'm trying to remember what the toggle was for because you had the 4 arrows where you
the
could move.
camera, I think, to move the camera and stuff like that back in the day.
Okay. I'm gonna have to play this later and report back.
We've gone down the rabbit hole of old Nintendo games now.
Oh yeah.
Were you ever growing up were you an action figure kid? Did you ever have like any of the WWE figures or anything of
God.
that nature?
Yeah, I have WWE figures and TNA figures. I had like a whole like huge bin full of them. I remember, I think my freshman year of high school, I threw them all away. And I regret it to this day. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I had like probably like hundreds. I had like giant like ring sets. I had like there was like a elimination chamber that like from Toys R Us that was super expensive that I begged my mom to buy. She got that for me. So yeah, but I had them and now they're gone. I have one left from my collection. It's an old Triple H. I don't know how like it ended up at my house after like our renovations, but I have one left.
What brought you to the moment of tossing them all, or what? I mean,
Because I was like 14. I was like, I'm not gonna play with these. Like,
and you didn't know about like eBay and stuff to sell them and make a lot of money off of them. Then.
I wasn't thinking like that.
Yeah, you're just like, I'm too grown. I'm done with this. And then when we grew up, we're like, oh man, I kind of regret that.
Yeah. A lot of memories just thrown in the trash.
Yeah, no, I had a kind of a similar experience with like my dolls where I had all, boxed them all up and I put them in And then at some point, I feel like we had water in the basement where we had excavators come in and they got rid of boxes and boxes of old stuff. So that was money and memories all down the drain. But we learned our lesson. And now you're making your own merch.
Yep.
So it's a full circle moment. Is there a Jermaine Marbury action figure?
No, I was going to say, when are we going to get this? If not, right?
I can't talk about that right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
We'll
give me
respect
like
the privacy.
I will say this. Give me like 3 or 4 months though. I have something cool coming out. Legit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We will wait. We will wait for sure.
Yeah.
So something else that I wanted to ask, because I know that you mentioned you trained with one of your trainers was Paul Roma down in Connecticut. And I know just from working with some of the talent that he's trained, yourself included, he's trained a lot of very, very talented, like in-ring technicians. All of the people that I've seen come from his school, whenever they say that he's the person that trained them, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, that makes sense because I just saw how good you were in the ring. So what was that experience like training with him? And how was the whole experience just like going through wrestling school in general?
It was tough at first. Like when I first started, like I was like the only like new person there. Like it was like all these guys who have like legit been there for like years, and then it was like just like me as a new person. So like at first, like it was kind of like tough for me to fit in, and I couldn't even like go to Roma's classes too because Paul Roma's class is like the advanced class. So you either had to like be like wrestling on shows or like get permission even to go to his classes in the first place. So once like I graduated to like and I was able to go to his class, he was very like hands on. Even like he's a older guy, like in his like 60s now, but he's very much like still like hands on. He gets in the ring and he'll body slam people and arm drag people. Like he's still like very much in the game, but yeah, it was tough at first, but like after a while, it was cool and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed training there.
Because I know there's a couple other talents, like Brad Baylor, I believe,
Yep.
one of the WWE ID prospects, and
Yep.
also Jeremy Lacroix, who's newer to the New England scene. But
Yep.
having seen all of you wrestle, like you all have a very strong technical in-ring style. That being said, I know just to circle back a little bit, I know we talked about like some of the Easter eggs that you throw into your move set that tie into basketball. As you were developing the character, like how did you get those ideas, and how did you kind of build that over time, like ways to sort of work basketball into your move set?
Literally one move at a time. So first I was doing the Mamba between the legs. Then after that, I was doing the dunk. Chris Battle has taught me that. It was like a Kenny Omega move where you just run up and you just grab the guy's forehead and bring them down. And then I learned the Eurostep neckbreaker from Austin Gunn from AEW. He had like randomly did it on like AEW, and like everyone was tagging me like, yo, Jimmy, look at this, and I'm like, all right, like that's cool. So then from there, then I also did like a Eurostep drop kick, Eurostep cutter, anything I can do out of that motion. I've probably done it already. And then the crossover, I'll never forget that. I was doing a tag team match for this company called Coliseum Pro Wrestling down in West Haven, Connecticut. And so my partner at the time, this dude named Kevin Kidd, he was getting beat up. It was my time to come off the bench, and light the place on fire. And I remember it was a small crowd too, and I crossed the dude up and I dunked on him. And after that, after the show, these like group of like college kids came up to me. They're like, "Oh my god, when you crossed him up, it was the craziest thing ever." And it went on and on and on. I'm like, "Oh, like you guys actually like that?" Like I was just like running around, like having fun. So then I tried at Wrestling Open like the following Thursday, and I got like a huge reaction because like the crowd over there is mostly college kids too. So I'm like, okay, like I'll keep that around.
Speaking of them liking that, let me circle back just a little bit. You said as a troubled youth, you got expelled. What does your family now think of where you're at now here in 2025 and what you're doing?
Oh, they love it. I have a lot of family that comes to my shows. Like my mom, my mom came with me to Ohio for the Exodus show. I have aunts and cousins up in Massachusetts that come with me, or they'll pop up at any show like in the Springfield area to come see me. My brother and his boyfriend, I came to a Northeast Wrestling show in New York to come see me wrestle Swipe Right with Jalen Brandon at the Westchester County Center. So like my family always comes out to support. So that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the last questions I have for you is, the world of professional wrestling, I like to say, is quite bizarro. And I'm sure, being a basketball player and having crazy moments out there, there's a lot of just weird and crazy things that maybe you never thought would happen. What's a crazy, bizarro moment that maybe sticks out to you that you're like, what the heck just happened?
I met Dennis Rodman because of wrestling.
Okay,
That was cool.
that's as bizarre as it
That's
can get,
pretty
right?
cool.
Yeah. So there was this like this fan festival out in Providence, Rhode Island. This was like February of 2024. I got offered a vendor's table, me and Benny. So we went there, and then they're like, "Hey, like Dennis Rodman's here," and he had a line literally like out the doors, like the longest line I've ever seen for like anybody ever. And so they had told me like, "Hey, like if you want to like come talk to him now, like you want, like go ahead, like we'll let you." And I was like, "All right, cool." So then I chopped up with Dennis Rodman for a few minutes, though. It's probably like the craziest experience I've had.
How was that meeting him and talking to him?
It was an experience for sure. He like rambles a little bit, but he was fun. Yeah, no, he was fun.
Well, I feel like I learned a lot about his life just from watching the Last Dance documentary
Yep.
over and over and
Yeah.
over again. And it's interesting because I think from what I remember, you guys actually have a little bit in common in the sense that it sounded like when he was young, before he really got into basketball and got really good at basketball, he was kind of like I guess troubled youth, for lack of better term, in some regards as well, and until he sort of fell into that passion. And so something that I was thinking of, this actually kind of segues nicely into my next question, is if you now, Jermaine Marbury, Joey now, could look back and give his younger self some maybe words of wisdom, words of advice, what would you tell him?
I'll probably smarten him up first a little bit because like when you're young and like you're doing things you're not supposed to be doing, like it's fun and like it's rebellious, you know what I mean? But then like as you get older, you realize like, oh, like was it really that fun? Like I wouldn't do that now. Like or some things you're doing is like, oh, like I probably could like really like ruin my future doing that. So like I'd probably smarten myself up. And I tell myself to eat more too, because like when I was growing up, I didn't eat a lot. Like I don't know if it's like I wasn't hungry or what, but I was a very very like skinny kid. So like putting on the weight that I put on now, it's been like pretty tough, but I tell myself to eat more and lift more weights.
Yeah, no, I come from a similar place actually, because I've always been like a very petite person, and I've always been like the petite kid. Like when we would line up in school growing up, we'd line up by height. I was always like the kid at the front of the line. And I remember my mom saying when I was a baby, like she was worried about me because I wasn't eating a lot, and it's not because I was just like, I guess I just wasn't that hungry because I was just a small person. But
Yeah.
similarly now, it's like when you get into like this fitness mindset, and you're trying to gain muscle and you're just trying to eat, it's kind of hard. It's hard if you're not used to doing that. So
Yeah.
I think anybody that's been like on a fitness self-improvement journey of any kind, like it's definitely a process, and it's not an easy one. It's one that you have to be very disciplined for. So kudos to you for committing to that lifestyle.
Yeah, it's been tough too because like I went from like eating like 1 to 2 meals a day, and like I used to like legit never drink water. I love Pepsi. I love cherry Pepsi. I used to drink like gallons of it a day, or like Arizona iced tea. I drink
Gallons
like
of
I swear to maybe like maybe not a day, but I swear to no, like it was really bad. So then like I realized maybe like a year into wrestling, I was like, oh, like it's not just about like it's not like the quantity of food I'm eating, but it's like the quality is like, okay, I have to like measure out my food and whatnot. So I've been eating like the same meals every single day for the past year. And I put on like legit like 20 pounds last year. Like 2024, I was like barely 180. Now I'm like a shoot like 204 pounds. So again, I'm getting to the point where I need to update my ring announcement soon. So
I was gonna say I'm actually very impressed because a lot of people, when they give me their weight for their entrance announcement, it is definitely not accurate. They exaggerate a little bit
yeah.
from their actual weight. So when you're saying that your weight is actually like pretty on par with your entrance announcement, I'm like, cool, he's telling the truth.
Yeah. Cause I also I documented too, like I have like 2 or 3 years like in my notes of like, all right, like in 2022 I was 160 pounds, and then in 2024 I was just at 80. Now I'm 203, 204 pounds. So hopefully by next year I'll be like 215, 220 pounds, you know. So
You're
you
tall too. How tall are you?
6'3", 6'4".
So like
He's a
basketball
short
player.
basketball player. No, he's like short.
Yeah. It's funny, going back to NWA Exodus, when I met Gunnar Kane I think it was Gunnar. I think he came up to me. He was like, "Wow, I thought you were going to be like shorter than what you are," and I was like, "Really?" Like,
Oh.
No, if you're a basketball player, I mean, how tall are most players in the NBA? They've got to be at least like
I think the average height maybe is like 6'4", 6'5".
Oh,
I
really?
was
Most
gonna
Okay.
say, I was like,
Yeah,
that has to be pretty standard.
yeah, I think so. I would say so because like obviously like height also depends on like position too, right? Because like all the guys who are like 6'8" and taller probably playing center. You know what I mean? All the
That's true.
guys who are like under 6'3" probably going to be a point guard or shooting guard. So,
And
but.
one last question. Well, I guess two more questions. One question that just popped in my brain because you mentioned that you were drinking gallons of Pepsi. Are you a Pepsi guy or are you a Coke guy? Because I'm team Diet Coke all day.
Come on, you gonna have to ask me that? Come on now.
He's Cherry
Oh
Coke. Come on.
no.
He's Cherry Coke all day.
Oh
No,
no.
I hate Coca-Cola. Not for
Oh,
me. Yeah. Yeah.
hatred, Julie. Hatred.
No, I put you over, Jermaine.
Are you sponsored?
I'm not. I
Oh,
think
okay.
I should be sponsored.
Okay.
And then one of the last questions that we always like to ask guests on the show before we sort of wrap things up: where can the people find you on social media so that we can continue to follow your wrestling journey?
You can find me on Instagram where I'm most active at Jermaine Marbury 4.3. You can find me on TikTok at Jermaine Marbury 3. Facebook and YouTube at Jermaine Marbury. I think that's it. And youtube.com/Jermaine Marbury.
Cherry Bombs is Team Pepsi, by the way, Julie,
Heck
just so
yeah,
you
love
know.
it.
So there
You
you go.
guys, wow! I wasn't expecting this. Not sure what I'm going to do with myself after this.
You're gonna drink a Diet Coke and you're gonna be okay, Julie.
I'll be
I
okay.
promise. I promise. I
I'll
promise.
be
Well, Julie, what cool stuff you have coming up?
So, this summer I've got some cool stuff coming up. I have a couple of Rebel Spirit Pro Wrestling shows. I think there are 3 of them on the calendar currently. One is our 1-year anniversary show that is Saturday, June 28th at Tackle Box Brewing in Marlborough, Massachusetts. We have 2 coming up in July on Saturday the 12th and on Saturday the 26th in Worcester, Massachusetts. That's going to be one of our biggest shows, Base Brawl, in it's at where the Woo Sox play, the stadium that the Woo Sox play at in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm also going to be debuting for Fight Factory Wrestling on Tuesday, July 15th. I will be at WrestleCon the first weekend in August 1st, August 2nd. And then the week following, I will be returning to Exodus Pro Wrestling in Cleveland. That is Saturday, August 9th. So summer is filling up, but with all good stuff. And Jermaine, we're definitely going to keep tabs on you to see how you're recovering from your injury, and fingers crossed, hope that you get the absolute best outcome possible. And hopefully we'll see you at some of those shows, and we'll get to see you on other shows in the very near future.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as for us here on Toned In Entertainment, Today, I just am very excited because I just dropped my interview and my recap video with Matt Hardy from this past Sunday at Charlie's Collectible Show. It was awesome. I spoke to the fans who were there to meet him. Then I got a few minutes to speak to Matt Hardy as well, too. So that was super awesome. That video is up on Instagram. I think it has 8,000 views in like an hour right now. So definitely go check that out. Yes, it's on YouTube and everywhere else right now. And then, of course, the big show, July 25th at Center Stage here in Atlanta, Georgia, One Fall Wrestling. I will be doing interviews backstage. We have MJF coming to do some meet and greet stuff. And the frat house will be there. QT Marshall, Tony Schiavone, Harley Cameron. And we found out this week who will be fighting Elijah Drago for the heavyweight championship. And that will be Brady Booker, who just won the Gateway to Glory Battle Royal this past Monday night. So the card is filling up. Center Stage. NXT is going to be there the week before us. So it's going to be a big show. That's Friday, July 25th. So I'm definitely excited about that. And then just, of course, more interviews. We've got a ton of content already shot that we will be pumping out every single day for weeks to come on Toned In Entertainment. So, Jermaine, thank you so much for joining us here on the channel. I hope to definitely catch you in action if you come down to the South here, or I know I got to make my way up to the North. I've been saying it for a while, but I need to come up North. So definitely, Jermaine, best of luck recovering from the injury. And when you return to the ring, I'm going to throw out a pun here and make it a slam dunk and taking on the competition out there.
Hell yeah. Thank you, guys.
And Julie, thank you so much for co-hosting with me once again here.
Thank you, Tony. Always a pleasure to be here.
All right, guys, make sure you're following Jermaine. Make sure you're following Julie. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos. Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.